A new year dawned upon the church in Kirtland in all the bitterness of the spirit of apostate mobocracy, which continued to rage and grow hotter and hotter, until Elder Rigdon and myself were obliged to flee from its deadly influence, as did the apostles and prophets of old. As Jesus said, "When they persecute you in one city, flee to another." Joseph Smith.
The faithful trailed behind. That summer, a mile-long wagon train moved slowly out of Kirtland and headed for Missouri. Hundreds of saints left behind their temple, their businesses, their farms. Some left family as they followed Joseph to the farthest edge of America.
What the Lord will do with us, I know not. Although he slay me, I will trust in him. We are like the ancients, wandering from place to place in the wilderness. John Smith.
Joseph arrived in the new Mormon settlement in northern Missouri to cheers from the saints. Settlement in Missouri had not been easy. As Kirtland refugees and new converts poured into far west and surrounding communities, the population swelled to more than 5,000. 4,900 were Mormon. In the months ahead, Joseph designated a temple site and declared the religion's official name to be the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
War clouds began again to lower with dark and threatening aspect. Those who had combined against the laws in the adjoining counties had long watched our increasing power and prosperity with jealousy, and with greedy and avaricious eyes. It was a common boast that, as soon as we had completed our extensive improvements and made a plentiful crop, they would drive us from the state and once more enrich themselves with the spoil. Harley P. Pratt.
Mormon leaders served notice that if the law would not protect them, they would protect themselves.
We have not only, when smitten on one cheek, turned the other, but we have done it again and again until we are wearied of being smitten. That mob that comes on us to disturb us, it shall be between us and them a war of extermination. Sidney Rigdon.
Our plowshares have been turned into swords, and the Mormon war is the all-engrossing topic of conversation. Even politics is submerged in the deafening sound of the drum and the din of arms. The Jeffersonian Republican.
As they gathered together in these communities, they did not socialize, and when possible didn't commercialize with the local folks. And therefore buying from one another, voting together as a bloc, and not integrating themselves in the community automatically set up tensions and suspicions that were very difficult to overcome.
In late October, Missouri Governor Boggs issued an extermination order which authorized the militia to increase its force and operate against the Mormons.
The Mormons must be treated as enemies and must be exterminated or driven from the state, if necessary, for the public good. Their outrages are beyond all description. Lilburn Boggs, Governor, Missouri.
The mobs began to gather in various places and commenced their hostilities, so much so that we were obliged to shoulder our guns and stand guard night and day. It continued to get worse and worse, until finally Governor Boggs issued his extermination order and the prophet Joseph was taken prisoner, and we were obliged to lay down our arms. I obeyed this order because it was Joseph's counsel for us to do so, although I felt at the time I would rather have fought them. Joseph Horn.
Latter-day Saints were barred from voting in Gallatin, which led to altercations at other Mormon communities. The outpost at Hawn's Mill was pillaged, and 17 saints were brutally gunned down. Farms and homes burned, women assaulted. Some 3,000 Missouri militia called up to crush the Mormons circled the settlement. Their numbers overwhelmed the saints. Among the opposition's forces were former Mormon faithful who had crossed over to join Missourians. Joseph Smith, Sidney Rigdon, Parley P. Pratt, and others were lured to a peace conference only to be arrested and dragged to jail.
As for your leaders, do not think, do not imagine for a moment, do not let it enter your minds that they will be delivered or that you will see their faces again. For their fate is fixed, their die is cast, their doom is sealed. General John B. Clark.
Missouri Militia General Samuel D. Lucas, acting under authority of the governor, ordered the prisoners shot in the morning. Alexander Donovan, the militia officer charged with the execution, defied the order.
It is cold-blooded murder. I will not obey your order. My brigade shall march for liberty tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. And if you execute these men, I will hold you responsible before an earthly tribunal. So help me God. Alexander Donovan.
The prisoners were shuttled from courtrooms to jail cells, first to Independence, then to Richmond, and finally to Liberty.
Joseph was a very remarkable man. I carried him into my house a prisoner in chains, and in less than 2 hours, my wife loved him better than she did me. General Moses Wilson.
Joseph and his fellow captives were denied common courtesies, fed filthy food, and exposed to freezing temperatures.
Dear Joseph, rolling rivers, running streams, rising hills, sinking valleys, and spreading prairies that separate us, places my feelings far beyond description. But I still live, and am yet willing to suffer more if it is the will of heaven that I should for your sake. Emma Smith.
Dear Emma, I very well know your toils and sympathize with you. If God will spare my life once more to have the privilege of taking care of you, I will ease your care and endeavor to comfort your heart. Joseph Smith.
The guards in the Richmond jail taunted the prisoners with curses and boasts of raping and murdering the Mormons. Finally, Joseph rose to his feet and rebuked them.
Silence, ye fiends of the infernal pit! In the name of Jesus Christ, I rebuke you and command you to be still. I will not live another minute and hear such language. See such talk, or you or I die this instant.
Chained and without a weapon, calm, unruffled, and dignified as an angel, Joseph looked upon the quailing guards, whose weapons were lowered or dropped to the ground, whose knees smote together, and who, shrinking into a corner or crouching at his feet, begged his pardon and remained quiet until a change of guards. I had seen the ministers of justice clothed in magisterial robes, and criminals arraigned before them in the courts of England. I have witnessed a Congress in solemn session to give laws to nations. I have tried to conceive of kings, of royal courts, of thrones and crowns. But dignity and majesty I have seen but once, as it stood in chains at midnight in a dungeon in an obscure village in Missouri. Parley P. Pratt.
Joseph was in jail, his future uncertain. Again, the Mormons faced exile, having lost their homes and their investments. Many lost their lives. Rather than dispersing, the core of Latter-day Saints followed Brigham Young in a ragged retreat from Missouri to Illinois and safety.
There was but one course now open for the Mormons, and that was to make their escape with the utmost expedition. John P. Greene.
For Joseph's wife Emma, the exodus was particularly wearing. With her 4 little children, she crossed the frozen Mississippi on foot in search of refuge. Under the folds of her skirt were 2 sacks containing Joseph's manuscripts of the revisions of the Bible.
Dear Joseph, no one knows but God the reflections of my mind and the feelings of my heart when I left our house and home, and almost all of everything that we possessed, excepting our little children, and took my journey out of the state of Missouri, leaving you shut up in that lonesome prison. I hope there are better days to come to us yet. Emma Smith.